welcome to the Real Sunny Gill podcast. And on today's show, we have the Paul Stapleton, multiple business owner, business and property mentor, helps individuals to become deal sources, and host of numerous entrepreneur events. Paul, welcome, mate.
Wicked. Thank you. One take as well.
It's pretty good, that, isn't it? How's it going, man?
Good. Glad to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, good to have you in here, mate. Good to have you. So, what's been going on? How's it all going?
What's going on? Yeah, lots of things are going on right now. We've got two big events coming up, June and July. So that's taking up a lot of time. Property markets improving on last year, so that's starting to pick up, get a bit busier. And then mentoring business is just at full capacity every single month. We limit how many clients we work with just so that service levels don't drop. But we're running at full capacity on that as well. So life's busy and can't complain.
Yeah, you're definitely a busy guy. I remember seeing you speak at Refurb Ed last year.
Yeah,
I think it was last summer, beginning of last summer. And I remember being highly impressed with the way, not just the way you spoke and how you came across, but the level of detail that you had. And yeah, definitely good elements to learn from. So I was really keen to get you on so people at home can learn as well. And even myself, mate, to be honest.
Yeah,
and,
appreciate that.
Yeah, looking forward to our chat. So, and I will hone in on a few questions, and I'll just go proper nerdy on it until I get it.
Go for it.
Can't wait. But tell us about you. Tell us about where you're from. Where are you from?
Where am I from? So, origins of my family. So, grandparents are Egyptian.
Yeah.
Mum's born in Cyprus, Greek Cypriot. I'm born in Bromley. So I'm from the southeast.
South London, yeah?
South, yeah. But yeah, born and bred in London, love London. Am I tempted to move away? All the time I can afford to live in London, I'll carry on living there. But grew up in not a very nice part of South London, and by no means is this violin story, but it was quite a rough area. Managed to get out of there at the age of 12, and I think it was the best move my mum and dad ever made, because you just always look back, don't you? And you always think, if I was still in that environment, what direction would you have gone? So yeah.
So you left Bromley at 12 then? Or?
No, we moved to Bromley,
moved to Bromley
at 12, yeah. So we were in an area which was quite close to Lewisham, which isn't the best area even now, even with all the investment. But yeah, it was good to have got out of that environment and into a much better environment, better schools, which obviously put me on the path to where I am today.
Yeah. What was school like?
I actually really enjoyed school, not for the education, but I just had a good time. Like, I had the subjects that I enjoyed. I really enjoyed maths, like numbers, figures, that kind of thing was my thing. I really enjoyed art, graphic design, that kind of thing. Outside of that, I didn't really enjoy school. I didn't like pass every GCSE and stuff like that. I tried college. I did a year at college, hated it, fell out with all my teachers. And just at that point, I just thought, you know what, this isn't for me. The education system isn't for me. I preferred self-education. So I started working from the age of 14. So I started working on the markets at Dagenham. I started working in my dad's restaurant, washing dishes, learning how to cook, working my way as a waiter, like that kind of thing. I just think all of those are just like the life skills that you learn through that experience. Just is so much more than you're going to learn in uni or college. And when I left college, I was studying graphic design. And I literally left college and set up a business the next day. Set up my first graphic design business at the age of 17.
Really? Yeah.
And just went out to local restaurants and businesses and designed anything from posters to menus to shop signs to vehicle wraps. And then realised, you know what, the money I want in life just isn't here. And that's when I first found my first sales role. And yeah, I became a bit obsessed with personal development and sales.
Yeah. So you said at college wasn't for you. What was it about college that made it not for you?
Probably the rules. rules. And I think like I said to you, I was really big on self-education. Like whatever I do, if I really enjoy it, I want to learn more than I'm just being taught in an hour or two at school. And graphic design was something that I really was interested in. And I managed to get a work experience with Cosmopolitan magazine. So it was a real like eye opener for me as to like what goes on in that world as a job role and stuff like that. But I got taught so much in the 2 weeks I was there. Like just they taught me so much. So when I then started college, they were teaching me the basics that I already knew.
Yes.
And it was kind of like I knew the shortcuts. And I just don't think I'm made for rules and to be told what to do. And I would fall out with the teacher, and then I wouldn't go, and then I'd be getting letters sent home and stuff like that. And I just wanted to earn money. I think that was the main thing. I couldn't see myself earning money quick enough. And as I said, decided, right, I'm going to leave and I'm going to set up a business.
It's interesting. So you didn't go to university then?
No.
Yeah. So that's one thing I noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs. The idea of the constraints of school, college, or university just constricts them.
Yeah.
And either they'll do university because it's for their parents or it's the done thing to do, but they always kind of knew this is not for me. There's always something at the back of their head.
I think if you need that certificate and that job title to do the job that you want to do, like if you want to be a doctor or surveyor or a nurse or a dentist or whatever it might be, like obviously it's a necessity.
Indeed.
But to go and learn business from someone that's been stuck in a school for 20 years and hasn't run their own business, you'll learn 10 times more going out and failing in business and learning what not to do. Like I've had businesses that have failed. Do I look at those as failures, or do I look at those as learning experiences that have taken me to where I am now, running successful businesses? It's all things like that for me. It's the experiences, it's that constant like apprenticeship of learning and earning at the same time that I think works for me. And that's kind of how I think most people should be, unless you're looking to do something that requires like a certain qualification.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I think to university and certain professors that we had, or even certain like teachers at school, the ones who professed to teach business but never ran a business in their life, or maybe ran a business 10, 20 years ago.
And it's probably outdated what they're teaching you. By
Completely
the time like 4 years is a long time, right? For you to go to uni and whatever you're taught in year one, I know that my business model is completely different from where it was last year because you're adapting, right? So you're being taught things that maybe in the real world are either outdated or it's not actually practical, right? It's in the classroom, it sounds really good, really easy. Okay, that's all we have to do. We just have to implement it like this. Then you get into the real world and you speak to a prospect and they say no. And you're like, oh, what do I do now? They've said no to me. This didn't happen in class. He said everyone would say yes.
Yeah, it's a big reality check, I think, for a lot of people who learn a lot of stuff at university, then try and do it themselves. It's completely as you are completely right, it's completely out of sync with the ever-evolving face of business, which literally changes every month.
Yeah.
Literally changes every month. And like the concept of a university professor who's probably left-leaning teaching us or you or normal people how to make money when they haven't run a business in over a decade is completely and utterly absurd.
Yeah.
And I think back to school. I'm just remembering at school, for example, I bring this topic up quite a lot. Why are we not taught how to do basic net profit in basic maths in terms of calculating our own corporation tax, or how to make a company? Here's your gross income. Here are your deductions. Here's your net.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because they want us to be poor, right?
Yeah.
Because then like they're controlling us. Like they don't want us to be successful. They need good workers, right? They need good workers to work for the big corporates all the time. If everyone was entrepreneurial and wanted to own their own business and be successful and be a millionaire, who would do all the small jobs? Like we were talking about lettings earlier. Yeah. Who would do the £65 jobs?
Yeah, capitalism would fall.
Yeah,
literally. If everybody got unplugged out of the matrix tomorrow, wanted to be the man or the woman, capitalism would literally fall. Who's going to drive the buses? Who's going to wait the restaurants? Who's going to do the cleaning? Who's going to do just your normal jobs in your offices?
But the thing is, not everyone's built for it as well, right? Like some people are happy to go to work, have security, which I still don't believe in job security. Yes, you're guaranteed a wage all the time you're employed, but they could terminate your employment at any time. Like a director or a business owner has your life in their hands. So I'd rather know I'm not getting paid at the end of the month because it's my fault and I can have responsibility, rather than I didn't get paid and point the finger at someone else and have no control over that. So I think some people have the minerals to go out and do business. Some people don't. I know lots of successful people that are high up in businesses earning a hell of a lot more money than I do. And they always say to me, I'd love to do what you do, but I just don't have the balls to go out there and do it. And that's quite interesting, because you look at them and you think you're super successful, but being successful doesn't mean you're going to be successful at running a business. You might just be successful because you're working for someone doing one job role.
That's a really good example, actually. So that's what people have said to you. So people that are successful in their corporate environments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's that freedom, right? It's the freedom of not being answerable to someone, not having to go into the office, not having to be at the desk at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, not having to ask someone if it's okay to go on holiday or can I have a day off because I want to come on Sunny's podcast, for instance. There's all these things that I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, we take for granted because it's normal, right? Look, I've taken today off, come up here, we're going to have a chat, coming to your event in the evening, staying overnight, a couple of meetings tomorrow, and take myself back tomorrow. But if I was working for someone, I wouldn't have the ability to do that. And I think that's one thing that they look at and they're quite envious of, is every morning if I'm dropping kids off at school, they're rushing off. They're always in a rush to get to the train station, to get that train so they're not late at the desk. And I'm happy to stand around and have a chat or go for a quick walk or go for a coffee or something like that.
Yeah, you're the master of your own destiny, ultimately.
Exactly,
I think some people do get it a little bit twisted when it comes to stress levels. Like, I get a few comments from the odd mates and stuff like that where they'll say, oh, you must have a really good life and, boy, you don't have to worry about this and that. And I'll say, with, it's like the Biggie song, right? More money, more problems. But literally, the more money you make, the more you open doors to business owner problems.
Yeah.
Nothing, apart from health of like your loved ones or kids or whatever, but nothing is more stressful than business owner stresses. When you're suing people or you're getting sued and you're worrying about this and you're worrying about
invoices not being paid.
Your cash flow, you're always playing cash flow game, regardless what's going on. And
always balancing who you're paying and who you're not and who you're keeping happy. That's the kind of anxieties we have as business owners, right? Like those 3 a.m. times that you wake up and you have those mini panic attacks, like, shit, what am I going to do? Like, happen all the time. Or that self-doubt creeps in sometimes if you're not having a good week, and then fast forward 6 hours later and you're sitting at your desk and all of a sudden something else happens. You're like, why was I worrying about that? I think you back yourself in the good times and the bad times to be able to get through them. And I think that's what a good entrepreneur, good business owner does. They know their value. They know what they're good at. They know that when the tough times come, they've got the strength and also the support network. That's really important. Not just being that solo entrepreneur or solo entrepreneur, whatever you call it, but being someone that you might be the only person in the business, but you've got a fantastic support network around you so that when you are feeling down, you've got that group to help pick you up, advise you, and get you out of that sticky situation.
I think that's really powerful what you just said there about your network and your group around you. So that could be a network of fellow entrepreneurs, people that you do joint ventures with, other types of business partners or investors. Whereas like when I was growing up and seeing my dad work in a shop, the only vision I had of businesses were the individual business owners. And it was a lonely world. And you got to do it by yourself, and you got to conserve the knowledge and conserve the resources.
Not enough money to pay someone's wage and stuff like that. I get that.
Whereas like now, I think we're on a similar mindset in terms of there is enough of the pie to go around. Let's give out, let's give back, let's enable people to get out of their jobs, to start their own businesses. Let's create future business partners of the future or future business leaders so we can improve the economy, improve the society we live in. It's just a different way of looking at things, and those people that you can connect with when you've got problems. So for example, going off on a tangent, one of my mates, I won't say who, but he needed some more money to do some more HMO developments. And he said to me, he goes, yeah, I'm a bit maxed out on my LTVs and my portfolio. What shall I do? And I said, I've got a couple of properties that with no mortgages on it. Just use that as collateral. And I just did it. And I realized when I've shared that story with other people, they said to me, you've done what? And I said, yeah, I've done that. He's my mate. How can you trust him? I go, it's not about that. He's my boy for years and we do business together.
Yeah.
And it's not about that. We have a higher level of understanding, right? And just having that ability so we can lean on each other and just having that tribe. And because I've elevated him and he's got to a situation, he knows he can lean on me. And in the future, I may want to lean on him. But having the ability to help my friends out like that and my other business partners, I think that's a powerful, powerful place to be.
Massively. And that boils down to who is in your circle as well. Like what, in the nicest possible way, what value does everyone bring? And I was watching something the other week about if you look at your circle, is everyone contributing to that circle? And they use the EU as an analogy where you've got like 4 or 5 countries holding up the rest of the EU. And they're saying that's the position you don't want to be. You don't want to be the person at the top of your friend circle that's constantly being the provider. You want to be that middle person where you've got a couple of people who look up to you, but then you want a few people that you look up to as well.
So
and
you want to be like Italy, for example.
That's it. And it's like, you don't want to be Greece, right? You don't want to constantly be having money lent to you.
Yeah.
But like in business, like for me, yes, I'm in property, but I rarely go to property events because I see more value going to business events. Because let's face it, we're looking for investors, we're looking for landlords, whoever we're looking for, they're not just at property events, right? Anyone can be a landlord. Like your friend, I don't know what he does, but he could work in, I don't know, he could be a dentist. Is he realistically going to go to a property event? Maybe not. But would he go to a local business event in his area to meet other business owners? Potentially. And you could find your next client by going there. And kind of just leading on from what we spoke about before is like, that's the whole reason we set up peak performance events, because we were going to events and just constantly saying there's something missing every single time. So we set up peak performance events, which is entrepreneur-based events, where it didn't attract one industry or one service. It was broad enough that if we said we're running a social media event, it was enough that we could get doctors, nurses, recruitment, insurance, property. Like that's what I see true network being, like people outside of your circle. And that's been like one of the biggest game changers for me. So now if I spend time away from the family and I go to events, they're just going to be around people that inspire me. So top business owners. So the other week, myself and my business partner went to quite an exclusive event at the London School of Economics hosted by Ali Abdaal and Daniel Priestley. And you're just surrounded by other business owners. On Monday, one of my favorite authors, Shah Wuzman, I think one of the most inspirational women there are in business, she's invited me to go to her founders' dinner in London. It's 40 business owners, 6, 7, 8-figure business owners. Amazing, amazing room to be in. Absolutely buzzing to be in it. Will I meet people that maybe I can do business with? Even if I don't, I'm not bothered, because the inspiration of being around those people is going to be far superior than taking away one client. It's just a learning experience that I'm going to have there.
I think that's really important. And I think some people at networking events can be very transactional. They're a bit like you can almost relate to what a girl feels like on a night out, right? But like just getting bugged. So
swipe left, swipe right.
A bit like that. And I'm just like, am I the hot girl at the bar?
Yeah.
But like, literally just guys with a business card ready just to hand out. What's your number? Here's my card. I'm like, look, man, let's just have a little bit. Let's feel each other out a little bit. And it's very much, you can tell it's very transactional in terms of what you can get, but it's not always about what you can generate in terms of your income. It's about that mindset. And
it's not always about the person you meet either. It's about their audience. So sometimes you might think you're not really any good for me because you're not in property, but they might know 5 or 6 people in property. So still exploring that relationship is key. But I went to an event and it was on HMS Belfast in London. It was a really exclusive business event. And what I really liked about that event is they did something called pre-networking. So they released the attendee list before the event, and they encourage you to all connect before the event via LinkedIn. So it allowed you to start looking who's going to that event, what is it that they actually do. is it worth touching base with them before, maybe meeting them for a coffee before the event and going together? And it gave me a really good idea of, you know what, hot prospects, these are the 5 people that are non-negotiable. I have to speak to these 5 people. I've done my research. And then the others then become warm and the others then become cold leads. Yeah. But for me, it allowed me to identify the 5 people in that room that without a shadow of a doubt, I have to speak to those people because I feel we're aligned on social media. Yeah. And I thought that was a really, really good thing, having that pre-networking. Try to include that into peak performance, but it doesn't quite work because, as you and I said, people don't book until like the last minute at these events, right? So we still sell tickets on the door on the evening. So for us to do that, we would have to have a cutoff point, and we would probably lose maybe 50 or 60 ticket sales if we did that. So instead, what we do is we do post networking. So there's 250 people at our event. You're not going to go and speak to every single person, but we have a lanyard with a QR code. And you take that home, you scan it, it has the full list with the person's preferred social media link. So when they register for the event and buy a ticket, they put their preferred way of being contacted. Mm-hmm. Some people put their phone number, some people put their email, some people leave it blank. Weird. It's the whole point of a networking event, right? You want to meet people.
That's pretty funny,
and then other people put their LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta and stuff like that. But it's a great way of connecting with the people you didn't get round to seeing.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question. Have you implemented that? But you've done the post networking. And
We've done
how
post,
have you found that then?
It's been really good. And what I found is a lot of people have said to us that they've made some really good connections from the event. And it was actually people that they didn't get round to speaking to, but the person actually reached out after the event to say, I saw you were at the event, we didn't get to speak. Be really good to find out what it is you do and see if there's any, and I hate this word, but synergy. Cause that's just the standard LinkedIn message, isn't it, that you get from someone? Thought I'd see if there's any synergy.
Yeah, there's a lot of LinkedIn buzzwords, isn't there? Okay, that's really interesting. Actually, I'm gonna nail a bit more detail on that in a bit. Going back to your first sales job, what was that first sales job, and how did that lead?
So that was hardcore, cold calling, paper leads, not even like a CRM. We were selling commodities and alternative investments. Yeah. And you know what? I think it was the best introduction to sales because only 1 in 100 calls didn't start off with the word fuck off, basically. Yeah. And it's like I said to you before, no is where every good salesman's job starts, right? Mm-hmm. If everyone said yes, you wouldn't be a good salesman. Mm-hmm. So for me, I used to relish the first no because it was like, right, it's where my job starts. And I'd be prepared for it. And I'd be prepared for the next 10, 15 no's. I had enough armory there to say, right, I can fire 15 shots here. Mm. Like I know how to handle this. And either this person's going to buy from me or they're going to hang up. The only way that this call ends is by them buying or them hanging up. Yeah. And it was good. You know, it was really good fun. I learned a lot. I did that solidly for 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah. And that's where I think my love affair for personal development and sales really came in, and business as well. So they paid for us to have a 2-day training course with Jordan Belfort. That was incredible.
You did what with the Jordan Belfort?
Yes.
Really? What year was that?
Oh, Christ! Now you've got me thinking. It's got to be about 11, 12 years ago now.
Before the film?
Yeah.
Really?
No, it would have been around the film, I think.
The film came out like 2012, 2013.
Yeah, so it'd be around the film.
Yeah.
And we used to all go and get tailored suits and everything like that. So we all went out and got our best suit and everything like that. And he turned up in a Real Madrid kit signed by Ronaldo.
Nah.
Yeah, and it was like, wow. But you know what? I took about 50% away from that because I still think there was a lot of bragging rights there and not quite sorry and what happened. But the other 50%, his straight line persuasion kind of training was pretty good. Just like the road is never going to be straight. There's always going to be obstacles. But your main thing is, even if you have to veer off the road, always bring it back to the straight line and just go direct. And that was really good. But I used to go to business events and see the likes of like, you might not know them, but Les Brown, Brian Tracy. Then they'd have some of the dragons talking. And I just really, really became obsessed with learning, personal development, affirmations, law of attraction, visualization, really strict on like being disciplined about things. So I gave up alcohol for 3 years, not for any other reason except I just wanted to test myself. I wanted to see if I could do it in that environment. That environment was your Champagne Charlie environment, which I never partook, but the discipline to be able to still go out with that crowd of people and have a Diet Coke and be the chauffeur was, for me, one of like the biggest achievements that I did. So I learned so much from there. And I think what that did is that changed the way that I approach property, because I'm not approaching it from a position of knowledge and strategy. I approach it from a sales background. Yeah. And I think when you know how to sell, you can sell anything, right?
Indeed. Yeah, that would have been an amazing training place.
Yeah, really it's a surreal time of my life because it was very fun, and it was a revolving door. Like, it was dog eat dog. Like, you'd tread over your best friend to make a sale, because that was the difference between getting a bonus and not getting a bonus that month. And lots of funny things would happen to make people not hit their targets, and you'd laugh about it, you'd be angry and stuff like that. But it was, it was all a learning experience, and I feel like that has made me into the person I am when it comes to training and also negotiation, because I'm pretty forward with my negotiation skills. Like, I'm quite bullish, I'm methodical. I can be quite soft. Like, I can play around with the way that I close my deals based on the person that I'm talking to, whereas most people are taught at these £1 events to have a script,
to
stick to the script. But the script isn't designed as a universal sales tool, right? It's a script will only work for one particular buyer type, and there's hundreds of buyers types out there, and you don't know how to sell to someone until you understand what they're looking for. So what you're selling might have 10 different benefits, but if I don't know the benefit you're looking for, I could spend 20 minutes going off this way and I've completely lost you. 100%. So I learned really early that the best salesmen are experts at not speaking, but at asking skillful questions and then just listening to buying signals. And that you speak 20% of the time and you let them speak 80% of the time. And I think for most people, they think they're controlling a conversation if they talk the most, but it's not the case.
It's the opposite.
Yeah.
It's the opposite, isn't it? You're right. I think if the survey was done on the main population, what makes a good salesman? Do they speak 20% or 80%? Majority of people would say 80%.
Well, they say, oh, you must be a good salesman. You've got the gift of the gab. No. The gift of the gab is that you talk too much, right? Yeah. The best people are the ones that ask a question, sit back, listen, and in their mind, they're building up their approach on how they're going to sell this person.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I remember doing recruitment in my 20s for like a couple of years.
Oh, poor you.
Yeah. So when you said then, like 1% of calls didn't end in fuck off.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still remember that now. The first few times I heard that, I was like, what the fuck? What am I doing? Yeah. But like, over a period of time, you just get thick skin. You just like, bring it on, say it. I don't give a shit.
I think the sooner you realise it's not personal and it's just business, like, it's just a different hat to wear. Like, if someone told you that after 5 o'clock, you'll take it personally. But 9 to 5, when you've got your work hat on and you've got your body armor and it bounce off of you, it's not personal. You don't know what kind of day they're having. Yeah. You don't know if you're the third call of the day. I mean, like, when I was doing it, that's when cold calling was the thing. Like, you'd always get calls. I mean, I don't know many people that have a home line anymore. Yeah. We didn't have people's mobile numbers 13, 14 years ago when I started out in sales. It was home lines. And now when you move, I don't have a home phone. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever have a home phone. Yeah. probably because I know what they're about and I know I'll be getting phone calls, but people just don't have it anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, you're right, and it's this very good introduction to what business is about. You know, business is multitude. Is variable in terms of the different elements to a business, but the core underlining main component is sales.
Yeah.
So learning about your KPIs, learning that I've got to pump out 50 or 100 calls today, and then that leads to a pipeline. And it's just you're breaking things down to the smallest manageable chunk to get a bigger outcome.
Yeah.
And it's just you got a big outcome and you reverse engineer that.
Yeah.
That's what I think one of the most powerful lessons I learned from that.
And then you leverage that and try and build on that. I mean, like my business partner and I were talking. So we're both launching our own education programs at the moment, and we're trying out different ways that do not involve ad spend. We're true believers in organic growth on social media, so we don't put ad spend behind anything. And I think the thing with ad spend is you're forcing it in front of people.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not forcing it in front of the people that actually want that product. So for me, if I can organically work with less people, but they're people that want my product, they're more likely to buy from me. So we're just exploring different ways. But we were saying our ratio typically is that every week we run a free webinar, get 20 people on the webinar, or 20 people register, between 10 and 15 turn up. On average, somewhere like 12 turn up. From 12, we tend to get 4 people book a phone call with us after the webinar, and 2 to 3 of those convert. And that for me is a good ratio. And that involves 2 hours of my time doing a free webinar rather than thousands of pounds every month on Facebook ads, not knowing what the outcome will be. Plus you've got that whole filtering system of hundreds of leads coming in. So it's understanding what avenue works for you, whether it's a volume thing, whether it's working with less people, but having more of a kind of one-to-one basis with them. And I get if you want to expand, you can't always be that one person that talks to them. So you have to implement other people into the business. You have to automate it and stuff like that. But that kind of works for us right now.
You're not doing any ad spending at the moment then?
Nothing.
Really?
Not even to sell out the events.
Yeah.
We don't do it. We haven't had to. So I just think we've got a good audience. We leverage the audience. We are consistently posting on social media. We're consistently speaking about it on podcasts and within our communities and stuff like that. And people just get to know about it and then attend the events, or they buy the course, or whatever it might be. Like podcasts for me have been the biggest thing, right? Like I mentioned to you, I was on another podcast. I got 40,000 subscribers on YouTube. The day that was released, I had 4 phone calls just on my work line about people that have properties to sell. I went to the London Excel on Friday to the property show. I probably had about 10 people come up to me just to say they watched the podcast. We exchanged business cards. Let's see what comes from that. So I think you've got to do what's right for you. If you're building a personal brand, I think just get yourself out there as much as you can. Speak at events, go on podcasts, create as many reels as you can. And if one of those reels blow up, then that does really well. My business partner, he's sitting on 350,000 followers on TikTok now. Some of his videos have done 20 million views. That's got him out there enough where he doesn't have to worry about lead generation anymore. He's capturing data every single day just off of TikTok now. So I think it's whatever works for you.
How are you finding TikTok in terms of
I'm not finding it.
Yeah.
I think he's doing well because he quite enjoys doing lives, and lives seem to get him a lot of traction. I'm not a fan of sitting there talking to a number at the top to tell me how many people are on there. This appeals to me more, having a conversation with someone, as opposed to just talking into a camera to basically my reflection. So he does that 2-3 times a day. And as I said, his following is growing massively, selling his courses on there. He does really well. I find Facebook is really good for me at the moment. So groups and stuff like that. We've grown a Facebook group to nearly 3,500 followers in 6 months. So that's doing well. But if I think about like my biggest success, it's been LinkedIn. LinkedIn for me, Yeah, like property wise, finding landlords, it's been the best. We looked at it. It's 4.5, maybe 5 years now on LinkedIn. 600 grand, just over 600 grand's worth of commissions made off of deals sourced through LinkedIn.
That's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good.
But nobody else is doing it, right? I've started teaching it, but nobody else is doing it. And everyone sees LinkedIn as that boring platform. But who cares what's boring if it makes money, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. You got to look at like distractions on platforms. You go on TikTok, you might go on there for work related. You might open it because you want to go and do a post, but how quickly is it to be drawn into just flicking through, and all of a sudden you've lost half an hour, an hour? Really, really easy, right? Same as Instagram. How quickly is it to go on Instagram and start seeing what your friends are up to, and then forgetting what you're actually on there for, and potentially just closing the app down and going off to do something else? Like there's all these things like Facebook. Again, that's kind of where family follow you, and then like you quickly start seeing what your family are doing, and then all of a sudden you forget what you're on there for. But if I go on LinkedIn, so professional business platforms, people on there, they're not posting cat pictures or posing by Ferraris or pictures of them in Noble or anything like that. They're literally on there for work related tasks. So they're a professional audience, and if that's the caliber of person you want to be working with, like if you're wanting to raise investor finance, if you're looking for investors to buy property, well, these are, and your avatar is, I want to work with busy professional people that are time poor, cash rich, at CEO directorship level. Well, you're going to find them on that platform, but you're not going to be able to search for them on Instagram.
No.
You're not going to be able to search for them unless you know their name on Facebook.
Indeed.
And you're definitely not going to find them on TikTok. So LinkedIn, if I say to you, like, right, like say for instance, you've got a Manchester-based property event, and you decide I want to start getting more property-related service businesses to the event. So I want estate agents, I want letting agents, I want surveyors, I want utility companies, all in the Manchester area to come to the event. You can use what's known as the Boolean search function on LinkedIn and say, I want landlords. So basically, anyone that has this in their profile, the word landlord and Manchester, and a list of people will come up, and then you start outbounding to those people. You create an event on LinkedIn, and you start inviting those people to the event on LinkedIn. Like it's so easy to do it. That's what we do for Peak Performance. We create the event on LinkedIn. We look for people that work in the London area, the metropolitan area, and we start inviting people that work in that localized area to an event. And if they're looking for something to do on a Thursday evening and they're interested in social media, or they might be interested if we're covering finance or business growth or whatever it might be, then they attend. But we wouldn't get that on Facebook or Instagram because we wouldn't have that level of detail as to what they do for work, what they where they live, or anything like that. So it's for me, when I do that training, we run a 28-day LinkedIn challenge. When we do that, people are so shocked at the level of response that they get, and they're like, I've been posting on Instagram for a year, I've still not generated a lead. Been doing this for 2 weeks, and I've got 5 investors that I've got phone calls set up with. And it's just that mind shift.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That so you do the 28-day LinkedIn challenge.
We do 28-day LinkedIn challenge with the YPN Network magazine. So it's how to build your brand, like brand awareness, how to find investors, and how to find deals. And we take them through optimizing their profile. We take them through how to use the polls to lead generate, how to structure posts, so having a hook, content, call to actions, when and how to respond to people, how to outbound to people, how to use the Boolean search functions. And then we run all kinds of competitions as well throughout it. But we create like a WhatsApp community for everyone in there. Everyone supports each other's posts and likes and comments and stuff like that. And it helps with the algorithm. And it's been really good where I think we're on our 5th one now, our 5th 28-day challenge. And sometimes we keep getting the same people come back for a second time because they want to keep refreshing it. That I'm a little bit more advanced now than where I was when I first started it. So am I going to start picking up different things. It's like when I read a book 3 times, and I go at it with a different color highlighter each time. So like when I first started out in sales, I read a book called Who Moved My Cheese, and it's a really, really good book. And I went at it with a green highlighter, and then a year later, when you're further up the ladder, you start noticing things in that book that didn't make sense because you weren't at that level, and all of a sudden there's some pink in it. And then 5 years later, you're still highlighting in orange because there's things that you're now at a more advanced level that now make sense to you.
Yeah.
And that's what I quite like about the LinkedIn challenge, that we are getting people coming back more than once because they want to up where they are now.
Yeah, as your experience grows, the lens that you view things changes as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that.
So is that part of your training program, or is that separate?
This is just a separate thing that we run. So I created a digital version of it, and that was just like standalone. You go on, you do it. And YPN and I had a discussion, and we were like, wouldn't it be cool to do it as a challenge, which made people step up and kind of compete against their peers? And we had competitions on like the amount of impressions you got, and people that were the most consistent would win a prize and stuff like that.
You're recreating your sales, that sales environment that you had. Because you're against your other colleagues. You got your little mini targets.
Exactly.
You almost have a bell, and you got that camaraderie whilst having that competitive edge.
But that's what makes you perform, right?
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks to my recruitment. That you just said there. Yeah.
And lots of people will, like, it's surprising how many people still pay lots of money for a course and then still don't participate. Like 2 months later, you can go on their profile, they still haven't implemented it. And I find that bizarre, I really do, because I will not even invest £10 into something if I don't think I'm going to use it. Yeah. That's not being tight. It's just knowing the value of money and knowing that knowledge is not power. It's only potential power if you use it, right? Correct. So lots of people are these encyclopedias of knowledge and courses, and like I'm in a position now where I turn more people away than I take on in my academy, because it is only 20 people at a time that I take on. That if I start to see a pattern here, like, so you've done this person's course, you've done this person's course, and you've done this person's course, but you're still not compliant. We still haven't found your first deal. There's a pattern here. Like, are you actually implementing this? What can you tell me about this that you would have learnt with them? And how have you not been able to apply it? For me, I just want, I know it sounds awful, but I want winners. I want winners to come onto my program. I want to work with winners. I want to train winners, and I want people to go off and be even more successful than I've been because they're learning from all of my mistakes, right? So there's no reason they shouldn't be more successful because they're not making the mistakes I've made. And that's my aim with this, seeing as I'm not doing this massive like battery farm of like 1,000 people in a room for £1. My big thing is working individually with people. The way you learn to the way you learn is completely different, right? So that has to be tailored. And I think that's how people will learn the best.
Yeah, which means that the people that invest with you for that training, it means their statistical chances of the outcome that they desire is higher, as opposed to certain other trainers that will fill the meat market for the £1 courses for a day.
Yeah. And there's still a market for that, right? Because people don't know if this is what they want to do. So like you might go on that £1 course and realize this isn't for me. And at least that's all you've invested. Yes. So there is that element. But lots of people think they can go on a £1 course and they're getting everything they need to go off and have a good shot at being successful in property. You're not, right? The £1 course there is to entice you in. But I think the main thing is it's there at an affordable level so that people can see, one, if they like you, like, and your training style, because there's plenty of trainers out there, right? We could go with any trainer that we want. But if I think you're a bit of a twat, I'm not going to go with you. But if I think this guy's a nicer guy, but he's charging 15% more than you, I'd rather pay that 15% more to go with that person because I feel that we connect. We're on the same level. I like his or her training style. I like their values. I'm seeing their testimonials. I've watched lots of their content. So, but most people go on price, right? And they go, it's one of those like you buy cheap, you buy twice. and then they end up spending lots of money and still having no result. So people really need to think about where they're investing, why they're investing, and if it's the right thing for them.
Yeah, I think it's really important that they get somebody that you just covered it about who they connect with, who is invested in their outcome. You just touched upon it about, have you been doing your viewings? Have you been doing other bits? You know, have you the other elements that you're doing that you should be doing that we discussed? And you don't want to be working with people that aren't going to follow through, because ultimately it will come back. Not that it will look bad on you, but you will not resonate with them. It's like a personal trainer who won't take on somebody who clearly is eating too many carbs and not going to the gym away from the sessions. At some point, some PTs will just say, I don't think this is right for you.
Yeah.
I don't think this is right for you, because it's going to look bad on me. And I
I
don't
was
want
going to say, in the gym, it's not another success story, right?
Yeah.
It's that guy that you never helped. So
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that.
It just takes one person to just to say anything and just say, yeah, I paid this guy for this 12-week thing and I put on weight. You know, that'd be horrific for a PT, right?
Of course.
And even if they didn't put up a bad review, just from a personal pride point of view. And I've had the same sort of conundrum when speaking to a couple of lads who wanted to come on board. I think one was pretty young, and he had a situation where he was pooling money together from some of his family and stuff. And I just said, look, mate, I think you need to get blessing from your family. I feel you're going rogue on this. And if you're going rogue, that means at some point they're going to drag you back.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have a conundrum. And I don't want to be in the middle of that. And I don't want to play those kind of games. And I know where that leads to. You're just going to quit halfway through. And then I'm just going to be the dickhead who just took some of your money and nothing happened. I'm not being that guy, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually said to him, go get blessing from your family. If you want me to chat to them so they can just meet me, that's fine. But until all of you are on board, and I've seen it with my own eyes, I can't take you on right now.
But you know what, right? Sometimes, like, it was one of my favorite closing techniques. Sometimes the takeaway is the thing that makes them come on board even quicker as well, because you're saying they can't have it.
Yeah.
So sometimes that has the reverse effect, because you're saying, you know what, actually, I just don't think it's for you. And all of a sudden they could have been 50-50, but then they're thinking, well, why do you think it's not for me? Yeah. Who are you to tell me it's not for me? You know what? Exactly. I am going to take it. I'm going to have it. Yeah, and it's so funny because that reverse tactic does work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you probably did that unintentionally.
Yeah, I think that reverse tactic works better for guys.
Yeah.
It does work better for guys, because I was always that guy. If somebody said that to me, oh, I don't think this is for you, I'll be like, I'll fucking prove you wrong. I'll prove you wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a good tactic, and Yeah.
So it's quite a powerful tool, that. But yeah, in that particular situation, I just couldn't do it. No, I can see where this is going right now. And just using the personal trainer analogy, it's just, I'm not having somebody who quits halfway through.
Yeah,
I can't be doing that. It's not in my interest. It's not in your interest, and you're gonna lose. Right? And I'm gonna get pissed off. I can't be doing that.
No.
So when you did leave that first sales job, you were there for 4 years.
Yeah.
How did you get into property then? What happened?
So I left there, and so in my 4th year there, I became the floor manager, the sales trainer. So I got to the top of the business, and then it was a case that I was employed as a consultant to be the sales trainer for a team of 40 staff. And I just decided that it was getting a bit more toxic, that environment. People were earning lots of money, and they were just turning into not very nice people. So I decided to leave, and I became an independent sales trainer. So I set up a company called Sales Training Made Simple. Mm-hmm. And I went out there and I started working with estate agents, financial advisors, insurance companies, recruitment mainly. We would train candidates that wanted to go into sales roles. So effectively, we would train them into the role. Yeah. And I quite enjoyed that. And then I got approached by quite a big property company, and they said to me they were looking for a sales trainer stroke floor manager. Did the recruitment company that I was doing this work for have anyone? I said, well, tell me about the job, and then I can put it to them. And the more they kind of told me about it, like, I always wanted to be in property. That's like one thing that I always had a passion for, but I only knew estate agency or developer, and I just wasn't either of those. Like the thought of being an estate agent just is enough for me not to want to be in property. Mm-hmm. And they told me the role, and I was like, you know what, this sounds like something that I would really like, and it sounds like it could be an entry level into property for me. So I said, well, how about this? I come on as a consultant and I basically train, you're looking for a sales element. I train your team. They had a team of 8 property sourcers.
Yeah.
I train them, but you train me on property. And that was the agreement. So I learned everything there, and I learned huge amounts outside of just property sourcing, right? Like the stuff they were doing there was magical. Like it was like property magic. And fast forward to about 6 years ago, I set up Casita Properties independently on my own. And then the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
But that was my entry level into property, which was going in and effectively being the sales trainer for this floor of property sourcers. Did that for 2 years. Did a further 2 years with one of the business owners. We joint ventured on setting up a property sourcing business. Yeah. COVID came, decided to go our separate ways, set up my business. It was already set up, to be fair, my business. And yeah, we just found a niche that worked for us and business just flew.
Was that one of your main drivers then? Joining that property sourcing company as a sales trainer? Were you looking at it strategically, or did you just think, oh, it'll be nice? Like, how much of a driver was it?
It was a driver that I still always had this passion for property. Yeah. Like, I know it sounds so bad, but like Homes Under the Hammer was that thing that I would always love to watch. Yeah. And that was what I thought you had to do in property, right? You had to go to auction, you had to buy a crap property, you had to spend a load of money and make a really small amount of money, if you made any money. But I didn't know enough about it to take the risk of spending my own money and stuff like that. Estate agency, I trained enough of them to realise it's just not the environment for me. So when they told me the investment side of it, and like, you don't have to buy property, but you can go out, you can find properties, and we have investors, and you sell to investors and you make 3-4 grand. I was like, yeah, like this has everything that I'm good at, right? It has like property that I have a passion for, but it's the sales part of it is what they're saying is missing in their business. I can teach sales. Yeah. So it worked really, really well. Yeah. And it took me a while to kind of grasp the property side of it, because what they were doing was quite technical. But learning quite a high level of property sourcing at the early stage, I think has positioned me to be prepared for most eventualities that come up.
When you say technical from the valuations for the GDV and how they did.
No, so what they would do is they would do fractional sales and freehold splits. So we would go out and find blocks of apartments, would split them while still, so similar like what we were discussing off air, assisted sales, like we would do all of this under the current ownership. So we would break them up, we would give them our lease, that we would sell those to 10 investors, and then we'd complete on the freehold for £1, or would back to back the freehold for £1 onto a fund for 50 grand. And there were so many moving parts. And we had, I mean, like in that office, there was 70 staff. So you had divisions for freehold, you had divisions for sales progression, you had mortgage brokers in-house, you had lettings department, you had the sales guys, you had the sourcers, we had development company. What else do we have? We have business development managers that would go out and try find more sites as well through relationship. Like, it was a well-oiled machine. So I got to see all the different moving parts in there and just work out exactly what hat I wanted to wear in the business, which actually was the opposite of to what I thought I was going to be good at, which was I'm good at selling, but I didn't want to do the sales. I didn't want to deal with investors. I wanted to now wear the hat of being a creative property sourcer and looking at a property and say, this property could work this way, or there's 3 different ways we can maximize the value of this property. And I think because it was something new, that's why I wanted to do it. I've been there, I've done that for 4 or 5 years, selling to investors. It's time for a new chapter.
Yeah. I guess that links to when a salesman is told no, it's okay because that's a way in, because there'll be something else that they need.
It's the takeaway.
Yeah. So then when you got an environment where you've got a multitude of services, you're almost like a boxer coming at different angles. Something will get through once you're figuring it out, right? And when you have an office or established office like the one that you've just described with a serious multitude of options, then
You know, we had two entrances. Well, we had an entrance and an exit. So I would sit at the entrance because that's where the journey began. So when we would invite maybe like a developer down that maybe had a big site that we wanted to sell, and we'd say, "I'll just come into the office," and they would come in the entrance, and you would just take them on this journey. It was like this vision. So look, this is the heart of the machine. This is where it starts. This is our sourcing department. So they're out there, they're finding the deals, they're looking for it. This is our outbound sales team. So these are the people generating new investors. These new investors then get qualified by these guys. And then these guys then became the portfolio managers who then handle it, and they sell the properties that the sourcing department bring on. And then the next bank of desks were, so these are the sales progressors. So once we sell your deal, it goes to the sales progressors, and they're managing every moving part on conveyancing. So the surveyor, the mortgage broker, the lender, the two sets of solicitors, the counsel for searches, the insurance broker, like everyone involved. Then this is our lettings department. So once it completes, this is where it goes here. And then by the time you got to the end of the office, you exit and you go straight into the boardroom, and there's a contract just sitting there waiting for them to sign for you to take on the instruction of their development. And they're just so mesmerized by the outfit that it was like really difficult for them to say, I'm not doing it unless the price wasn't right. So taking them on that journey and having that vision from the start to where they want to be, which is this is where your property deal completes. It was just such a good sales tool. It really was.
Yeah, you got me thinking now how to lay my office going forward. But that's ingenious.
Yeah,
that's ingenious. Instead of having a
really
disparate office with different partition walls or whatever, you literally have it in a journey format.
Yeah, it was really good. And then that way, your bank of desks only backed on to the people that you needed to speak to. So we always needed to speak to sales progression. So sales progression would sit in between us and the sales team. So if sales progression had a question or a query for the vendor, they would come to the property sources and say, Mr. Smith isn't answering the phone, can you crack on with him? But if Mr. Taylor was buying the property and he wasn't responding, well, then they were sat directly behind the sales guy. So they would say, you need to chase your investor because he's not answering the phone to us. So it was really good, and kind of sales progression sat in the middle with lettings that side and everything else, because they had to speak to everyone within the business. They were that heart of ensuring that the property actually goes through to completion, which is where we all get paid.
How many people were there?
It was 70, just over 70, like 71, 72, something like that.
Yeah.
Big overheads.
I was about to say that,
Yeah.
So when you created Casita Properties,
Yeah.
which components of that business did you take on then? As in,
Yeah.
conceptually.
So I think what I witnessed there was that there was a stigma attached to tenanted properties. So let's say the property's rented at £500, but the market rent was £550, £600. They go, we don't want that property because it's underlet. But in order to get that extra £50 or £100, you probably need to spend £5,000 on it to give it a revamp. So then I'd be looking at that thinking, well, from a business point of view, that's a lot of months' earnings to get that money back. So kind of seems silly. You might as well have that tenant in there that's paying that amount rather than output £5,000 to make an extra £50 a month. Seems pointless. But on the other thing, I would look at it and say, well, wouldn't you rather have a tenant that's been there for 2 years, that we've got rental statements to show there's no gaps? You can physically go there. You can meet them to make sure you're happy with them. You could go in there and see how they're living, right? If they're living and they're looking after the place, it gives you confidence that they're the right people to stay in the property. But if you go in there and there's dog mess everywhere, and believe me, like I've been to a lot of properties, and the things I've seen with tenants are just shocking, right? Like I've been in one house and there's been like 30 budgies flying around and there's just crap everywhere. So it's almost like, I always say, it's like buying a business, right? You take the risk, you roll the dice, you go to the high street, you put a lease on, you get a lease on a shop, you got no client book, you got no proof of concept if that business is going to work. Would you look for a business like the one you want, and you approach people that maybe are getting a bit tired, retirement age, and you buy that business that's proven? You've got a few years worth of accounts, you've got staff, you've got an office, you've got a high street presence, you've got a book of clients. That's how I looked at tenanted properties.
Yeah.
So we decided to roll the business out, that we became discrete off-market specialists in selling tenanted properties. And I looked at all the problems with selling tenanted properties, and one of them was that most landlords didn't want their tenants to know they were selling. So they didn't want it to go on to the likes of Rightmove and Zoopla. They didn't want to spook their tenants.
Yes.
And I kind of get that. But at the same time, at some point, that tenant will need to know.
Yeah, legally.
You're going to have to get a surveyor in there, right? Or a buyer might want to go in there. And the amount of landlords, when I used to go look at their property, say, right, you're from the bank. You're just here to do a valuation if anyone asks.
Yeah.
I was thinking, this is the biggest problem. When tenants feel like they're being lied to, they start to make up their own truth.
Yes.
And their own truth is always going to be the worst case scenario. It's Christmas. We're going to get kicked out. My kids are going to be homeless. Everywhere's £100 more. We can't afford it. Like, there's all these thoughts that go through their head, when in reality, the only thing that needs to happen is us as an agent has to say, just to let you know, your landlord's looking to sell. He's employed us because we are a landlord to landlord selling agent. So we only sell properties that have existing tenants in, and that we can meet, and that we can provide a good reference. So seems like you're a really good tenant. We're going to sell to another landlord that is buying purely on the basis that you're here, that you're paying this amount of money, and that you plan on staying. Are you planning on staying? Yes, we are. Perfect. Are you happy? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so there's no problem. All I ask is that to give the landlord the best opinion of you is that if we need access, you work with us.
Yeah.
I don't want you getting off to a bad start with your new landlord, right? No, of course. Cool. We'll reduce the number of viewings that we're going to need. But as soon as we do the viewings, obviously we'd like it if we could have the house and you're not going to be here, just so that we can do them. They're like, yeah, cool. But with estate agents, they take on a tenanted property. You ring them up and you say, is 123 London Road available? And they go, yeah, do you want to view it? And it's like, there's no qualification there. And after like 5 or 6 viewings, the tenant gets pissed off. They stop answering the phone.
Yes. Yeah.
They stop paying. They don't answer the door. And all of a sudden, you've turned a really good tenant into a bad tenant because you've made them paranoid. So we worked out there was a good way of selling these.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we did so well in that business, or we do so well in that business, because we have a tried and tested method that works, and people can see the benefit in that service.
Essentially, you humanise the tenants, right? Instead of treating them like a number, the same way Foxtons or Leeds Rains would. Just
they're
sheer
important.
volume.
I always say, if you look at the tenants as the engine in a car, right? The shell is the house. So if you buy a car, you want to know, is it a 2 litre or is it a 5 litre in the car? Most estate agents don't know. They don't know any information on the tenants. Well, how am I expected to buy that car and not know what's in it? Like, the biggest part of what I'm buying is what's going to be in there. So if I'm inheriting this property with these tenants in, I need a profile. I need to know who they are. I need to know how long they've been there. Do they have kids? Do they have pets? Like, what are their plans? Are they planning on remaining there? Are they working? Where do they work? And that's why I used to like going to meet the tenants and just getting that profile. Now I employ a third-party agency to go and do that for me. But they build that profile up so that when I'm selling the property to our investors, it's not necessarily the property we're selling, it's the tenants and the cash flow of the property.
It's the whole asset, right? Tenant included. And as if you treat it like a commercial property. Here's the lease, here's the tenant, here's the tenant quality.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we went with that. And I think because we only ever speak about that one message of it being tenanted properties, our lead generation has been much simpler because we've established ourselves as the go-to people for that now. So if you're an investor that's interested in investing into properties that are already cash flowing from day one, you come to us. You don't come to us if you're looking for a HMO conversion. It's not what we do. But if you're a landlord that's looking to sell a property or is currently trying to sell a property and it's got tenants in, and you want to sell to another landlord that's looking to buy with tenants in, then you come to us as well. And that's what made our marketing so much easier, because it was just one message for both sides.
That's smart, that. And then, so you developed that first. So where are you sitting now with Casita Properties? What's the situation now with it?
So still running operationally, 3 people in the team, doing 2 to 3 deals a month. But it's like anything, right? I get to a level where if I have a certain level of success in a business, I kind of get bored and I need something else to focus on and something else to grow.
Yeah.
So we started taking the profit out of Casita Properties to then invest into building other businesses and doing different things, buying back my time, doing different experiences,
Yeah.
podcasts, events, all stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It's just quite easy as an entrepreneur to get bored of certain things, and
Yeah.
it's the buzz. I think it's the buzz, right? I think
Yeah.
when you get locked down in just operations, then at that point you're a glorified employee.
Mm.
At that point, it's
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. Where do you sit on the board? Are you a small business owner like the plumber or the eleckie or the barber or the hairdresser, but you're still exchanging your time for money, or are you sitting more, strategically on your business, not in your business?
Yeah.
And when you're working on operations, it's very easy to lose that buzz. Very
Yeah.
easy, very easy. Whereas creating a brand new business, you do literally get that dopamine hit.
Oh,
It's amazing.
it's great. And
Yeah.
it's like you might have the property business that brings in 10 grand fees per deal that you do, but you go and set up a new business and you get a £30 membership sign up for the month. And you're like,
Buzzing.
got another £30 membership.
Yeah.
My wife would look at me and like, what are you celebrating for £30 for? Like, you get 10 grand on a property deal. And I was like, yeah, but that's an achievement for me. Like £30, that's one. We start getting 10 of these and then 20 and then 30. We get to 100 a month. It's good money coming in, like passively. And
Because it's long term.
it's long term.
Because you get loads of them. Because a lot of people can't get their heads around that. Like, 10K sourcing fee versus 30 quid a month. But if I get 100 people at £30 a month,
Yeah.
it's such a diluted risk because there's all these little mini slots.
Yeah.
So even if a few people leave, you're all right.
I find that lumpy money that comes in gets spent lumpy as well. Like
Yes.
when 10 comes in, it's quite easy for 6 or 7 to go out on something.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're getting consistent cash flow in and you're budgeting it and everything like that, I find I'm better with my money that way.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you get lumpy money in, you always expect lumpy money every month. So when you don't get a lump come in that month and you've spent a lump the month before, sometimes you leave yourself in a position where you're quite vulnerable as well. So you need to be good with cash flow and everything like that.
Yeah. Your cash flow forecasts and your projections. And I treat it like the mafia sometimes. These lumpy deals. It's a bit like you're waiting for a score to come in.
Yeah.
When that score comes in, it goes out.
Yeah.
It goes out.
Oh, it's all business, right?
Yeah.
You're like that. I feel like that with my money that comes in, like having 2 kids. It's like that, and it's like, right, one for you every single time it comes in.
And whereas I know we discussed property management before, I was bitching about it. I openly
Yeah.
bitch about property management, but that's one good side to property management: the consistent cash flow that I get every month off it.
Yeah.
It's not exciting, it's not sexy,
No,
but
but
I
it's
can
consistent.
literally budget for it. I know what's coming in, I know what's going out within 5-10% accuracy.
Yeah.
And that is a pretty cool place to be in. Yeah, there are other ancillary issues with
Yeah.
property management.
That's how you get your valuation right for your business. If it's not consistent money coming in every single month, it's hard to value and get a high multiplier on your business. So you need those kind of management or those subscription models in there to show consistency.
Yeah, 110%. 110%. So as a deal sourcer, or when you're training deal sourcers, or with Casita Properties, what are some of the main issues that deal sourcers have, and how do they get around it?
How long have we got left? You know what? Deal sourcers have quite a few issues, and we can't necessarily blame the deal sourcers, right? Because it's not always their fault. It's what they've been taught at courses or what they've consumed on YouTube. But some of the biggest things are thinking that they can work with lots of different investors with lots of different criterias, looking for lots of different locations, right? So being that person that tries to source anything and everything for everyone ends up being that person that achieves very little.
Yes.
So the first thing that I always say is go out to your market and find out what people are looking for. And go with that Daniel Priestley model of being oversubscribed. So if you've only got 1 pen to sell, but you've got 10 people in your client base that are looking for that exact pen, you're in a really strong position. But if you're saying I'm a bespoke sourcer and I'm going to bespokely source for 10 different people right now, those 10 different people have a different criteria, then the biggest problem you're going to have is that you spend lots of time looking for that little unicorn that they all want. Yeah. And if they don't want that property, you've got no one else to sell it to.
Correct.
So find what the bulk of people are looking for, get them on your list, get 10 solid people all looking for, I don't know, BRRs in Birmingham, whatever it might be that they're looking for, and then just go out and look for that one product. And what you're doing is you're creating that buying frenzy as well. Like, I might offer it to you and somebody else. It's Thursday, and you say, okay, let me think about it over the weekend. That's cool, but it's with someone else. So it's first come, first serve. Whoever I get the reservation fee off of. Come Monday, you come back, go, Paul, done my research, all good, let's go with it. Sorry, it went on Friday. Someone will beat you to it. That buyer then has that FOMO moment that, shit, I've missed out on this, right? So the next deal that becomes available, guess what? They're conditioned now to move quicker. There's no, as long as this meets those financial criteria, which all the deals I'm going to present to you do, you need to make that decisions quick. Otherwise, somebody else will take the next deal from you as well. So that's the first thing I teach people. Just lots of people say you shouldn't have a niche. I disagree, because I built a business on having a niche. It's easier to build a personal brand and a business brand if you have a niche, because then you're known as the go-to person for such and such, for instance.
Vertical market, right?
The HMO guy, the BRR king, whatever it might be. Jason Patterson is the lease extension king, right? There's all these things, but you build that brand. Everyone knows who you are. They know what you're doing. So you attract, like I said, only attract that type of investor to you. You only attract those type of people that want to sell their property that fit that criteria, because they know you have that investor base. When you speak to estate agents, it's easier for them to register you with one set criteria of what you're looking for, rather than say, I know we spoke last week and I had a client, John, he was looking for a piece of land, but this week I've got Sarah and she's looking for a hotel. And then next week you've got somebody else who's looking for a block of flats. And they're just going to look at you and think, realistically, this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
It's too disparate. It's too all over the place.
Exactly. So that's probably like one of the biggest things I think they do, is that they don't know who they are and what they do. Like in my training, we do intro training. So I say to them, right, we're at a property event and you've been given the microphone to stand up in front of 50 people and introduce who you are, what you do, and who you're looking to work with. Do it. And I put them on the spot and they're like, it's like, you got 30 seconds. The time's running out. You've got 50 people that you can talk to. And they're like, so my name is Paul Stapleton. I'm from Manchester. I've been a deal sourcer now for a couple of weeks. I'm looking for investors. And I go, rubbish. It's like, you need to be so quick. Who you are, who you're looking to work with, and how you're going to help them. It's like, my name's Paul Stapleton. I run a business called Casita Properties. We specialise in discreet off-market sales for landlord-to-landlord sales, typically tenanted properties. I'm here to work with anyone that is either looking to buy tenanted properties, or if you have a tenanted property that you're looking to sell, where you guys come see me after the event. And I was like, it has to be as simple as that, and you have to know it inside out. And the only reason you wouldn't be able to do that is if you don't know what it is that you're actually doing.
110%.
So, and that's what many sources are. They don't know if they're rent to rent. They don't know if they're doing SA. They don't know if they're deal sourcing vanilla buy-to-lets, because they've gone to an event and they've been told about 10 different strategies and they're so excited they want to do all of them. But you can't. Unless you're a big outfit, you can't do all of them.
Yeah, you got me thinking about what we do, actually. And we, coincidentally, because on UBI Holdings, that's what we do. We do turnkey HMO developments for investors. So we help them get their passive income to such a level that they can leave their job. That's the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah.
And yes, we do the sourcing, the financing. We have a construction arm that does the conversion of the house. And then we guarantee the tenancy with my property management company. So it's fully A to Z, hands off. And the advantage, so you touched on the point about dealing with at least 10 people. So it makes you think about the people that we deal with. It is literally round about that number.
Yeah.
And we've got more people that we're dealing with than available properties.
Perfect.
Yeah. So then it can be a bit annoying sometimes, but it's the perfect balance.
But it's a good problem to have, right? You'd rather it not be, you've got 10 available properties with only one person interested. So it's a good problem to have.
100%. Yeah. The imbalance has to be that way for it to work.
I always find it's a good tool as well. So like, if for instance you've got that one property, you offer it to 10, 5 say I like it, 3 want to view it, 2 want to buy it. Only one can buy it, so they buy it, and then all of a sudden the other one's like, well, look, I'm really annoyed that I missed out on that deal. Cool, let me go and find you another one.
Yes.
And when you're speaking to those estate agents, you can say, look, I don't know if you know the property on 123 London Road that was up for sale. Oh yeah, that was with so and so. Yeah, perfect. Offered that to our database of investors. 5 of them were interested. One of them's just bought it. One of them's really got the hump that he missed out on it. I am desperate to find a deal that would work really well. I see you've got this. It's a hot buyer. He's ready to go, but he needs it 10 grand less than the price you're listing. Yeah. Could you speak to your seller and just say, you've got someone ready to go. They've just missed out on one. What can we do on the price? That is such good bargaining power to go off and get the next deal, because that agent will be excited. The fact that you've got a hot buyer there, just missed out on one. He's desperate to buy. He was ready to pull the trigger. You'll get that deal all day long. Or they'll start talking to you about the deal that they're going out to do the photos on, and they think, well, actually, we could sell this deal to them. We wouldn't even need to launch it to market, which means we don't have to do viewings. We don't have to answer the phone. We get our full 2% without lifting a finger. So £1 per hour return on investment is exceptionally high on that deal.
It's amazing at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's when you start to win on every angle on that situation. So what's other issues do they face then, really, apart from working with too many investors, being disparate, being a bit all over the place? What other issues do you notice?
So I would say a lot of them have unrealistic expectations of what their service should be for the fee that they want to charge. So a lot of people have in mind, you get paid 3.5 grand for every deal that you do. But that's not true, right? It has to be a fair exchange, right? So if I tell you I'm looking for 3-bedroom houses in Manchester, and all you do is go out and send me loads of Rightmove links, is that realistically worth £3,500 if it's something I could do myself? I don't believe it is. And I don't think that's a deal. I think that's what I call a lead. And I think a lead is worth anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500. But if I'm bringing some value to it, to say, look, this is on Rightmove, but I did go and view it on Saturday. I met the owner. I can get this 20 grand cheaper. And I've identified that there's a couple of things that need to be done, and here's the quotes for them. I think that's worth 3.5 grand. You put the time, you put the effort, you provided a service. But then if I'm bringing you something and I say, look, I'm solely instructed on this, completely off market, I'm direct to vendor, I've got you a 20% discount, and I expect the GDV to be £100,000 with a £20,000 investment, then I think that warrants, if I can make you that level of money, that warrants me charging £5,000, because the level of money you can make from this, the exclusivity of the deal, and the fact that I've gone away, I've done figures on the GDV, and this is another big problem, we'll get onto that, but I've got 3 independent agents to provide GDV valuations, right? Not the person that's selling me the deal, but 3 independents. I've got 3 builders to quote me 10, 15, 20 grand. You decide which one you want to go with. I always say, are you an optimist, a realist, or a pessimist? Which one do you go for? And you've even got a letting agent to go out and say, this is what you can achieve when you rent it out. That definitely warrants getting a higher margin of fee, in my opinion. But too many of them think they're entitled to 3.5 grand up front. And then the question comes into play, right? Well, what happens if that deal doesn't go through? Do I get my money back? What are the terms of that? Is it transferable? Is it non-refundable? Like, there's all of these questions that get asked. But just touching on GDV, that's one of the biggest problems, right? I put a poll out on LinkedIn the other day. I'd love to have my phone to show you, but we got something like 50 votes. We got like 4,000 impressions on it. And it was like, what's the biggest problem that you face using a property sourcer right now? And it was like lack of communication, GDV being incorrect, and some other bits. And the comments just blew up about how property sourcers have no idea. They'll say what they need to get the property sold. They won't provide the right information. Their GDVs are way off. Their estimations of how much it's going to cost to do the development is. That's kind of where like I listen to stuff like that, and I think, how can we alleviate that? So when I'm teaching my mentees how to package their deals, I always say to them that never put return on investment on there, because you can't calculate return on investment. But return on investment is personal, right? You and I are two different people. I've got exceptional credit score and I've got 15 properties, and I've got the option of having maybe like a specialist lending product. You're a first-time investor. You've had a CCJ. You're sitting at like a good to poor credit rating, and the level of deposit that I need to put in to the level of deposit that you need to put in might be different. You might need to put 40% in because you're high risk, and you might be charged 8% interest with a $3,000 arrangement fee. I've got specialist lending. I might get away with 4.5%, 5% with no arrangement fee, and I might only have to put 20% in. Yeah. That has a huge impact on return on investment. My brother's a mortgage broker. I don't have to pay a fee, but you've still got to pay £600.
Yes.
I've got a friend who's a solicitor. They charge me $900, but you get charged $1,500, and that affects all of those little points, like decimal points and stuff like that. So advertising a deal at 15% return on investment might be underselling it for me, because I'm probably sitting more like 20%, but overselling it to you because you're sitting more like 8%.
So how do you present it then? Because you need something to present at the end of the day, right? So how do you present it to the masses? Or do you change it for each individual person?
So what I do is the only brochures that I get my guys to make up are area guides. So I think before you ever sell a property, you need to sell them on the area first. You don't want to be doing both at the same time. So if you say that, I don't know, if you're covering Birmingham, but you say Dudley's the next hotspot, for instance, sell them on why Dudley's the hotspot right now. So do that before you go out and start looking for properties in that area. Let them know, like, Dudley's got this regeneration happening. There's a new transport link coming in. House prices are expected to do this. I don't know, Taylor Wimpey are expected to build 500 properties in the next 10 years there, which we think will push the prices up. All of these things. So they're sold on the area now. Then you go out and find them properties. So when we present properties to them, I present properties the same way as I pass it over to a solicitor. So I create a Dropbox folder, have a folder for images, have a folder for videos, a folder for certificates to show that it's a compliant buy-to-let. So we've got valid electrical, gas, boiler inspection, inventory, anything like that. We've got title plan, title deed in there. We've got the EPC, we've got the floor plan, everything like that. We do it that way because we don't want to gloss it up. We don't want to glamorize it with CGIs, drone flyovers, and all of that. The property is being sold as a commercial purchase, so we present it as a commercial element. We also provide, and this is what I recommend, download a free return on investment calculator that's in Excel, brand it, so it's got your branding on, and for every deal, fill in what I call factual information. So the purchase price is factual, the current rent is factual, maybe it's currently managed, so 10% is factual. If you want to include what the current insurance is factual. Outside of that, tell the investor that they need to start filling in the rest of the document to get their return on investment. And that's how I've always presented my deals. And I think they've been quite well received because it looks like a lot more level. Well, it's a higher level of due diligence, but more importantly, we're not just trying to sell it on pictures. We're selling it on every single aspect of the deal.
Gives you credibility. Gives you huge credibility with investors when you apply that kind of information in that manner.
Yeah. And the other thing we do, so we don't do a write-up on the property. We pay an independent viewing company called Viewbar to go out and do a property inspection. So they provide a full detailed, like an inventory, but a full property inspection that we then pass to the buyer to say, this is an independent person's view of the property. They've outlined here that there's some damp in the bay window. They've outlined this. There's no hiding from anything. But they will take that information better than any information I give them because, like we established earlier, a salesman's always going to say what he needs to say to sell the product, right? So I found that small investment, it's £120 for them to go and take the pictures, do a video, and do an inspection report for me. That investment has made our sales a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Really good advice for deal sources. That it's quite an interesting thought process with the ROIs because that's the first time I've heard that.
But you do, right? It's all you see is 15% return on investment or on capital invested, whatever it is, however people package it. But it's just impossible to get that exact for someone until they fill in the sections themselves. So they need to know what they're paying in legals. They need to know what they're paying their mortgage broker. Once they find out the product that they're getting a decision in principle on, then they can put the arrangement fee and what the interest payments are going to be.
Yeah.
So until you've got all that information, you can't truly work it out. So I've only ever sold based on yield, gross yield.
Yes.
Not even net.
Yeah.
Gross. It's up to you to work out net because I don't know if you're going to self-manage or if you're going to use someone. That 10% is massive when it comes to working out your net yield. So there's so many variables, but I think the best thing for sources is to take away the liability. So when I get information on the property, it either comes from a third party or it comes directly from the seller. And I get the seller to sign that document after to say that they've provided the information to the best of their ability. It's 100% accurate and that we haven't provided that information.
Yeah.
So that if anything does happen post-completion, they won't say, well, Casita Properties told me this. Well, actually, here's the signed document that we provided you to say all of our information was given to us via the seller.
Yes, your liability at that point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Casita. So you got Casita.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to start with your multiple businesses, Paul. Talk to me about your other businesses then.
So we've got Casita Properties. So that's kind of what that does. And the money that comes in from that, we then invest using a strategy called assisted sales. So I'm open enough to say that I don't buy and hold properties. So I don't have a portfolio. That's not because we can't afford it. It's because it doesn't fit the motivation of what I need in my investment. So I like to move quick. I like to turn my money over multiple times. Probably in another life, I should have been a stockbroker. But when I do assisted sales, it means that I can do more deals in the course of a year because I'm not wasting time on legals. It means that I can use the same pot of cash maybe 2-3 times in a year. The return on investment is higher because I'm not having the associated purchasing costs. So like the stamp, the legals, the interest on the mortgage or the bridging or whatever it might be. And I'm not open or exposed to anything that could go wrong if I did purchase that property and be stuck with it.
Are you saying you're not a landlord at all then?
No.
Really?
No.
That's
not yet.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm going to go into commercial.
Yeah.
But for me to park my money, it needs to be when I've got the exact amount of money needed to purchase a building that can give me the passive income I want for my retirement.
Yeah.
For me to reach that passive income amount in buying houses every year, I would need hundreds of houses and have hundreds of headaches.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You've done the ROI exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can, if I started out, if I started out with 50 grand, say, 50 grand would buy me 150 grand house, right? With deposits and everything like that. And that would what? So 50 grand. Yeah.
50 grand, yeah.
150 grand, yeah. So that's to purchase that house. Let's say I put 20% in. So 30 grand. Then we've got stamp, we got legals, we got everything attached to it. We're probably spending the best part of 38, 39 grand, probably. Now that house, what? 750, 800. It's probably going to rent out on a vanilla buy-to-let.
And rent out for
750, 800. Yeah. We take off our mortgage, might be about £200 on or £300 on a interest only.
yeah, about 300-ish.
Yeah, and then
120k, yeah, minus 300.
yeah, and then 10% for management, so £75.
Minus 10%.
Another 10% for, let's say, sinking fund, rainy day pot. We got insurance, everything. We're probably going to net about £250, £300 probably a month if we're lucky.
Insurance. This might be covered by this thing here. Yeah, you're right. So at that point, you're netting
maybe like £3 grand a year, maybe.
Yeah, so about per month, about 250 a month, right?
Yeah,
250.
so £3,000. But then that's on the assumption that we're fully occupied. We've got no voids.
Yeah.
The boiler, I mean, like, boiler breaks down this year. We've got no profit, right?
Correct.
We're in negative probably if it's a new boiler. Whereas if I'm looking at an assisted sale, right, and we'll use like round figures, but let's say, for instance, I find a house, it's been reduced 3 times on the market, so it's listed at 150, it's gone down to say 135, so it's £15,000 discount.
So sorry, say those numbers again. Sorry.
So let's say the house was listed at 150.
Yeah, 150.
Let's say it's been reduced by £5,000 3 times, so it's at 135 now.
15K reduction, so 135K.
It's worth 150, but there's a few things that maybe are preventing it from selling for 150.
Yeah.
So we'd look at that deal and we'd say, right, it needs, I don't know, maybe it's an E-rated EPC. So it needs to come down to a C because mortgage lending's really bad on it.
Yeah.
So we'd look at, right, so we need to change the boiler and we need to put some insulation in the loft and change all the bulbs to LEDs to get it just over the line from a D to a C.
Yeah.
Once we've done that, we then launch it back on the market at the 150. Yeah. It's now a C-rated EPC, and we'd make £15,000 minus whatever we spent on it margin. Yeah. So return on investment is, let's say we put £5,000 into it and we pull out 15.
Oh, because you don't purchase.
Because we don't purchase it.
And I think that's the key take home for anybody listening, because you haven't purchased this.
No, we're doing this under the current ownership.
And that's the assisted sale.
Yeah. So we've done some where we've literally just had to paint the house.
Essentially, you start at this point, but you still haven't paid for anything, so you're only paying for the works.
Yeah, there's no legals, there's no stamp, there's no mortgage interest, there's no bridging finance.
So your ROI essentially is works plus obviously other fees, right? Works plus ancillary costs.
It just works. There's no solicitors, there's no estate agency fees.
So works spent.
So we agreed this property for 132,500.
Yeah.
We spent £4,120, and that was painting all the walls in the house white, putting up some guttering, replacing a couple of kitchen doors, shower screen in the bathroom, and just a tiny bit of damp. So small investment into that, as I said, 4,120, and we sold that house on the market through the same agent for £160,000. So we made £23,380, which worked out to be a 555% return on investment.
So what was the profit? Sorry, 23.
Profit was 23,380. That was a sale price of 160.
And then your investment was essentially that. And then
yes.
Your construction over your profit there.
Yeah.
So that's 4.12k. Excuse my writing.
To get that.
What was the percentage?
555%.
Amazing.
Now that's the best one we've done, and it's the cheapest one we've done as well. So it just goes to show, like, a lot of people that do assisted sales, they'll think they need to do a full back to brick refurbishment. They might need to extend it. Maybe they need to add some floor space or add another room. Mm-hmm. But you're just increasing your level of risk.
Yes.
For me, in assisted sale, anything could happen, right? Like, you could run out of time on the contract. The market might shift halfway through doing it. Yeah. So I want to be in and out as quickly as possible. Yeah. Do the minimum amount of work required in order to get my money out quick. Yeah. So typically, this was an example of one that we did, and we sold it back through the estate agent. Yeah. But typically, I'll be looking at only doing these on deals that I know I can sell to my investor database. Yeah. So it's fitting that oversubscribed model that I know I could probably sell it before we even start the works. Just effectively sell it like an off-plan deal.
Because you're getting that margin there, and then you're getting the sourcing fee as well.
No, we would absorb the sourcing fee in there.
Oh,
yeah.
That'll be within there, yeah.
Yeah.
And then for somebody, so if I am a landlord, if I wanted to sell one of my properties and you approached me and presented this model, how do you present that to a landlord? What's the pros for a landlord?
So typically we'd go at it and say, look, there's a reason why this property hasn't sold. What's been the feedback?
Yeah.
and again, this is like the skillful questions that we mentioned, and they'll say, well, a lot of people have been put off by this and that and this and that, or we've had offers but it came in lower, or maybe it's been downvalued, whatever it might be. And we go, okay, and all we're doing is we're just building up our pitch to enhance what they're saying. And then we say, well, look, we're looking at this, what do you need? And they'll say, we need this amount. And we go, well, look, it's not going to work if it's someone purchasing it to flip it, because all the profit's going to be lost in purchasing costs. We can flip it, but we can do all the works while you still own it. We agree a price with you. Anything over and above that, that becomes our profit. We invoice your solicitor on completion. And sometimes it takes a bit more negotiation. Sometimes you might have to offer them a percentage of the uplift.
The average,
yeah. Sometimes you might need to pay for their legals. If there's someone living in it, we've had to put tenants in an Airbnb for a week while we do the works, whatever it might be. But that's like the exciting part, right? Having that creativity that not every deal is going to be the same boring deal. And people are open to it, right? Because you're providing a solution to a problem that they have. And then they always say, well, what happens if you don't sell it? And I say, well, we lose a load of money and you've got a lovely house. So you win either way. Now, obviously, we're not going to do this if we don't believe we can sell it, right?
Indeed.
But with those kind of profit margins, if you look at assisted sales as like investing in the stock market, right? At the end of the year, you look at your portfolio and you say, right, we had 10 that are up, we've got 2 that are down, but over the average on the portfolio, we're 50% up. You're still happy, right? You don't dwell on the ones you lost money on.
Correct.
So I look at this and think, well, you know what? If 1 in 10 potentially didn't work,
that's okay.
but we made on average 200% per deal, yes, I'll probably be sore for a week, but then after that, I'll find another deal to make up the money.
Yeah,
so
you can't win on every deal as long as you're winning
No,
on the majority
exactly.
where you make a profit. So.
But how many people go to auction, buy a property without viewing it, and then they buy it and it's worse than they thought, and there's no money in it, and then you're left with the asset. So yes, we might lose a little bit of money, but it's nowhere near the money people are losing when they're buying a property where they're inexperienced and buying the wrong property.
It's way lower risk. So much lower risk on this. It's fascinating.
There is risk. Look, everything's got risk, right? And I'm the even sourcing, right? I've had deals where I've not been paid on sourcing, and you learn from that experience. You learn why you didn't get paid, and you just ensure that next time you've put the appropriate measures in place to prevent that from happening. And it's only been once. I've only ever not got my sourcing fee once.
Was the contract not signed properly? Did somebody do it in a company name and shut the company down?
Exactly that, yeah. So again, it's naivety. This is like 4.5 years ago now, and
that's how you learn.
Yeah, they had it in a limited company. They said that we could have it at a cheap price because they were shutting the company down, and we got a good price, and we were enticed by a 12 grand fee. Come completion, and we sent the invoice to the solicitor. They said, well, you're going to have to invoice the seller because all the funds have been sent to them. And we went, well, no, we told him that we get paid from the solicitor. They never answered the phone number was disconnected, and they basically put the company into liquidation day after they completed.
Really?
So we learnt from that, and it was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. But what we learned is, if anything's owned in a limited company name, we need visibility that there's further assets in the business that could cover our fee. And if there isn't, then we looked into it, spoke to our solicitor. We said, how can we prevent this from happening? And they said, you have to do something that's called an irrevocable undertaking of fee. So essentially, the solicitor agrees to undertake that fee. Therefore, your money is paid to you first before the remainder is sent to the seller. So kind of like what the position that the mortgage lender is in as well. Like, they get paid before the seller gets paid.
Anybody else, you're first in line.
So that was really good for us to learn that way, because that not only benefited us on those kind of deals where they're with limited companies, but it also benefited us on the deals where there were big margins. So like if we did a block of flats and we were making like a 60 grand fee, it would be like, right, we should probably protect ourselves here and get an irrevocable undertaking on that particular deal as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's learning is an expensive game. It can be really, really, really expensive. Either way, you're going to pay in legal fees to either get it done right the first time. But you don't know what you don't know.
No,
And really, most of us really have to learn through experience. And
just look, right. Some
yeah.
people will pay £12,000 to be taught what to do in property, right?
Yeah.
But when you're taught only what to do in property and you're not taught what not to do in property, you spend that 12 grand, then you'll go on to lose another 12, 15, 20 grand
Yeah.
in making mistakes.
Yeah.
So how I see it is it's all an investment into my education.
Yeah.
The difference is I didn't have that education in the classroom. I had it in the real world.
Yeah.
And by having it in the real world and having it hurt me,
Yeah.
and at that time 12 grand was like 12 grand is a lot of money to anyone, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or not, but 12 grand was a hell of a lot of money to me 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to feel that pain and disappointment again. So ensuring that we got the steps in the business to prevent that from happening again was crucial.
Makes you stronger. Makes
Yeah,
you stronger.
100%.
So what about your other businesses?
Okay.
The events. What's going on there?
So we've got two event companies. I briefly mentioned Peak Performance earlier. That's an entrepreneur events business in central London. So it's networking and education. There's no selling. We don't have any products to sell. So we don't offer membership, subscriptions, courses, anything like that. It's an event for people to come to and just have their guard down, completely relax, meet like-minded individuals, 250 people in a room, and we bring in some of the biggest speakers within their field. So the last event that we had Daniel Priestley, we had Charles Woosman, we've had Rob Moore, we've had a couple of winners of The Apprentice. The event's sponsored by a business that's owned by Lord Sugar. So it's gained a lot of traction in such a small period of time.
Sponsored by Lord Sugar.
Yeah, so Trademark Wizards, which is a business that's owned by Lord Sugar, is our main sponsor. They've completely trademarked our business, our brand, our logo, everything like that. And it's just been a good business to have attached to us for credibility as well.
Yeah. What's Rob Moore like?
He's cool.
Yeah.
We work with Rob on that. We've worked with Rob on the podcast. I have another events company. So I have Training Made Simple events. And that is based around education and mentorship. So we've got our next event in June coming out called the Property and Entrepreneur Summit. Rob's speaking at that event as well. Again, I've tried to create an event like no other. So pure value again, no pitching, no courses. You're coming to see people that ordinarily you would be used to, telling you to run to the back of the room and pay 10 grand for a course. But this is going to be them in a different environment, seeing them in a different light. They're speaking for somebody else's event, so it's going to be a lot more relaxed for them. First half of the day is all focused around property. So it kicks off with Andrew and Ranjan from Baker Street Property Meet. They're going to be focused around 10 ways that you can use PD to do commercial to resi development. So really exciting. I'm next. I'm going to be talking about creative ways of investing into property without owning it, similar to what we just discussed. After me, we have Jackie Tomes. She's an expert in raising investor finance to fund property transactions. So something that everyone's looking to do right now, finding those angel investors. And then we've got a great panel of property professionals. So we've got Saj Hussain, we've got John Howard, we've got Hayley Andrews, and we've got Michelle Cairns from the YPN magazine as well. We break, we've got an hour and a half worth of networking. We've got some great sponsors there that you can build your power team with. And then after that, we've got Rob Moore kicking off. So he's going to kick off on the entrepreneur side. So he's going to be talking about millionaire mindset, the mindset you need to be a good business owner, defeating limited beliefs, imposter syndrome. We've got Dave, the sales angel. So he's going to be talking about sales, objection handling, how to negotiate your deals. We've got Aaron Branch, who's a master of social selling, so Facebook ads and short form video content. And then we finished today with Daniel Priestley talking about lead generation and scaling your business. So huge amounts of value.
Daniel Priestley, who was on Stephen Bartlett in February.
Stephen Bartlett's. So, and we actually got confirmation from Daniel the day before that went live. So it was perfect timing. We
amazing.
announced him on the day that he was on Diary of a CEO.
Mint.
So that actually got a lot of eyes on him from people within our network that never heard of him before. And watching that podcast, which is for me one of the greatest podcasts I've watched, I learned so much from that. They're kind of like, yeah, we're going to come just for him. So huge amount of value, huge amount of knowledge to be had at the event. As I said, our biggest thing is that it's a no pitch promise from stage. So there's no pitching on stage, which is what I want the event to be about. I want people that, if you're interested in any of the sponsors that are offering products, services, or education, you have a choice to go to them. If you're not interested in it, you don't go to them and you just network. But if you are interested, you go to them. But the main thing is that you're not being pitched on the stage. You're just sitting there and you're taking pure value from every one of those speakers who are the top people in their industry. And then we've got 100 tickets that are VIP. So at lunch, we have a VIP networking room, got waiting staff doing a meal, and you're in a room full of the guest speakers and all of our VIP guests that we've invited as well. So again, more people within the property industry that are at the top of their game. So it's a really valuable room for anyone that wants to come to be in as well.
So if you're not doing pitching, you're not going to be doing the music where people are standing up and dancing and high-fiving each other?
There's no walking on hot coals. There's no high-fiving the person next to you and all of that. It's
that loses me. It really loses me when
I'm the same. I'm the same, and I get it motivates. Yeah, it motivates certain people, but for me, I just want to come and take value from each person. So I built the event that I would love to attend.
Exactly.
I probably won't enjoy it as much as the audience will, because I'm just going to be ensuring that everything's going smooth, everyone's having the best time. But I'll record the event, so I'll get to watch it back. But I'm really excited about that. Buzzing. It's 400 people in a room as well, so 400 property enthusiasts in one room.
So that's a summit, right? That you're doing.
That's the Property and Entrepreneur Summit.
Property and Entrepreneur Summit, and then you do the quarterly event as well, right?
For peak performance, which is just purely entrepreneurship. So it's not property related.
Okay.
So the next one coming up is called The Power of Social Media. It's volume 3, so it's the third one of these that we've done, and it's going to be all about leveraging social media to sell your business, your service, your product.
That's the July event.
It's the July event, peak performance. I think everyone needs that. Everyone needs to know how to get more sales from their business using social media. It's a key thing.
I just love it when I do podcasts with people. I'm like a salesman's dream, and I was picking your brains before, and I'm just really invested in what you're saying. I'm just making a few notes as well. I'm going to make sure I come down to June and July, definitely.
Wicked.
Take some of my staff as well, really, so they can learn.
It'll be great.
So if anybody's listening, I'd highly, highly recommend going to them. Highly recommend.
Click the link below.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But that's exciting though, and I really respect the fact that you're making it in a format that you would enjoy it. You're not just doing the American capitalist stand up and high five the person next to you, get everybody excited, get thousands of people in, and try and convert X percent. You're not doing it like that at all. You're offering pure value the same way you would, even I would, because I'm like that. I can't deal or stand those events where I have to stand up and high five people. Even if you did it for a second, that's
a bit
fine.
Cringeworthy, isn't it?
Say if you did it for 2 seconds and then you move on, that's cool. Yeah, it is what it is. We should all know the person next to us. But when a significant percentage of the day is based on music, watching some guy nonce about, right, high-fiving people next to you, and then you got the sales pitch, you're just like, this is an 8-hour day, and I've only got value for about an hour and a half, if that.
It's tough, isn't it? And I think, look, obviously what happens is you get enticed to the event. It's a free event, or it's a £1 event, or it's £10. It's a nominal fee, right, to get you committed to go. But then when you're at the event, they're banking on people paying 10, 15, 20, 40 grand for a course, right? And that's what effectively pays for the event. We're doing it the other way, right? We're charging 150 to £200 a ticket, and that's the price for us to put on the event and give you an event where there is no pitching. Because the courses are what pay for most events, right? Events are expensive to put on. Speakers are expensive. Everything is expensive. So what that will do is we'll have a high value caliber of people in the room. because they're people that have invested into themselves. They're going to get so much value from £150. So many bonuses. We've got loads of books being donated by the likes of Daniel Priestley. So I think Key Person of Influence for everyone. Score app. Loads of other goodies to give away. We've got a photo booth. People can come along, get free headshots. Something that not a lot of people have is a good professional headshot for their profiles.
Yeah, this is not like when you're on a night out on the piss. This is a proper...
Exactly, completely free. We've got some wicked street food vendors coming to provide food. That's all included as well in the day. So it's all included in the ticket. So it really is an event, in my opinion, and I've been to a lot, like no other out there. I don't know anybody else doing an event like this with the people that we have on that stage as well. Like they are the best of the best within what they do.
It sounds pretty mint, I'm not going to lie. I not to bitch about other people's companies, but I'm not going to say the names, but I went to a lettings conference in a certain month last year. It was a 2-day course. I spent, was it 500, 600, 700? And it was literally, we were standing, dancing, high-fiving. And these we're all business owners. We're all business owners. And
it's not what you're there for.
And yeah, it was a laugh for the first minute or two, and it was quite funny on some bits. But I'd look at the day, and each day I was like, how much have I got out of this 8-hour day that I've had here? An hour and a half, if that. And the rest, it was just all these not sob stories, but the typical stories, isn't it? And then it's the sales.
Yeah, you can hear it. Again. You can hear it though, right? Yeah. I mean, like coming from someone who's been in sales and trained in sales, I can sit there and I can hear. We used to call it the tee. So it's like when you put the tee in and then you put the ball on before you hit it.
Yes, the tee up. And
you would hear the tee up, and you just know what's coming, and you're looking around the room, and it's almost like people are like levitating out of their seat towards that person, like they're being sucked into it. And I get it. It's business, right? Yeah. But it depends what you're putting the event on for. For me, it is a business still, but it's not a business at the expense of people spending their hard-earned cash and not getting that return on investment. If people want to go on and you're providing enough value on stage, well, then they'll connect with you after and they'll find out what it is that you offer, right? But it would be nice for people to be able to go to an event and come away and say, that was a great event and it didn't cost me a $5,000 course, to actually get true value and enjoy that.
Yeah. There's it's integrity, isn't it? How you deliver something. I think you framed it perfectly. Would I enjoy going to my own event? Apart from the stress of dealing with your own event, would you enjoy being another person?
I'd love to turn up to a peak performance event and not have been involved in getting it set up, because I don't think people appreciate as well, like, to put on some of these events at the price that we do, like £45 to £65 for a ticket in central London for an all-inclusive event, so open bar. That doesn't happen if you have event organisers and big teams, right? We do most of the stuff in the background. We do all the promotion, we do all the logistics. We even drive the van up there with everything in and empty it ourselves, because we want to be in a position where we're attracting our target audience. Our target audience aren't these multi-million-pound business owners. No. It's the people that are small to medium-sized entrepreneur businesses that want to grow and scale into a much bigger business. And they can't afford to be outlaying lots of money. So we keep the business as lean as we can. We call in friends to help us set up, and we give them a drink. And that's how we're able to provide these events that people really enjoy coming to. Do we sell anything? No. People ask how we make money. Well, you know what? We're on a stage in front of 250 people selling ourselves. And if you buy into us, if you like us, then you'll do your research and you'll find out how you can work with us. But that's what we do it for. We do it because we enjoy putting on a good show. We enjoy putting on a good event. We learn a ton from the speakers that we get there, not just on stage, but the conversations we have off of stage as well.
I look forward to it. And as I said, I'm definitely going to take other members of the team, 110%. I'm just thinking in my diary now as I'm listening to you, who's where I am, but I'm definitely here. We'll definitely come to that. So what's going on going forward? What are you doing next? What's going on?
So a random one, but we've just hopefully get it on Friday, the first lot coming through, but we're just about to launch a peak performance apparel brand. So gym wear. So we've got this logo that we think is pretty strong. It's unlock your peak performance. We wear branded gear all the time. It's actually a rarity that I'm not wearing it today. And so many people have said, where can I buy your hoodies? Where can I get your T-shirts from? Where can I get your caps from? And it's been 2 years in the making of us saying, right, we've got a bit of time now. Let's look into it. So we thought this is a great prospect for us to get into gyms. So we've got running tops and we've got sports bras and we've got leggings and we've got shorts and vests, and we've just had all this stuff designed, and we're just waiting for the first prototypes to come through. And we're hoping to launch that next month, which will be really exciting. Again, it's not a money maker. Margins are like pounds, but the big thing is it's getting the brand out there.
Exactly.
That's our main thing. Just the more people that see that logo, they recognize that logo, they understand what the business does. That's the exciting thing for us. So yeah, that's the next venture. But for me, doing some more property deals would be great every month, gets the cash flow up. But really starting to build out this training academy is what's given me, and again, the training academy doesn't bring in anywhere near as much money as the property does, but it gives me those good feelings that I like in business, that I'm doing some good stuff and I'm helping people. And it's not just, the property's great, right? Yes, I'm helping a landlord and I'm helping a seller, but for me, that just kind of lines your pocket, right? You're doing it because you want cash. Doing the training, pound per hour is less, but it's more rewarding personally for me.
We're changing people's lives. Really.
Yeah.
And, it's equivalent. I compare it to being a doctor, really. If you truly are ethically doing it properly, as opposed to some other people, then you are genuinely changing people's lives, where they can quit their job earlier and spend time with their family and their kids.
Yeah, it is very rewarding. And look, don't get me wrong, not everybody goes on and it's a success. You can't help everyone. You can give them the tools. They don't implement it. It's obviously tough for you to take that responsibility. But I'm more selective now with who I work with. There is a process of having what I call a discovery call and working out if we're aligned, working out if this is right for you, and also making sure that you can afford it. I don't want people's mind coming into this that they've overstretched themselves and they're just focused on debt. They're not focused on the end goal, which is let's get you to a place where we're closing your first deal. Like that for me is the goal. That's the first goal. And if they want to work with me after that first one to build the business out, that's great. But my main goal is let's get you to that first deal and to completion and getting that first commission in. Because I remember the feeling that gave me, getting that first commission in. Like, it doesn't matter if that was $3,000 or 10 grand. And if I've made 100 grand on a deal 5 months after, that feeling won't be beaten by knowing I can do this. This is real, and I'm going to back myself now.
That first deal is a buzz.
It is.
There's no bigger dopamine hit in that vertical market than your first deal. There isn't.
But the first transaction isn't always the first deal. That's the thing that a lot of sourcers really struggle with, is that they think, I'll do this first deal, and if it completes, I'll go all in.
No, that's the
But
mindset.
they're putting all their money on one horse, right? And if that horse falls at the first hurdle or the second hurdle or just before the final finish line, that's even worse. Because this happens, right? You know how it is. That can be like the nail in the coffin, that they're not going to do it anymore. So my main thing is, you got one deal, well done, proof of concept, you can win instructions. Let's progress that, but let's get another 5 in the pipeline. And let's base it on 50% fall through rate. That's not reality, but if you're having lower expectations and achieving higher results, then that's putting you in a strong position. Most of them will just see that first deal, and if that first deal doesn't happen, then they give up. They give up.
Do you know what? That's a really good point. I never really thought about it like that until you said that. You're right. Most people will give up, won't they?
If you imagine, most deals take 3 months, right? Let's just say, especially your first deals, you're not used to progressing that deal. So it's going to take 3 months to go from selling it to completing it, right? if you are waiting for that first deal to see how that goes and that doesn't go your way, you then have to press the restart button to go and find another deal and wait another 3 months. Whereas if you go full steam ahead and you get 5 deals in the pipeline and that first deal comes and you get $3,000 in, you're not waiting another 3 months. You should be having like a domino effect where it's every other week you've got $5,000 coming in. And you just have to consistently keep that pipeline level up. Just always make sure one comes off, top it up with 2. One comes off, top it up with 2. Correct. Easier said than done. But again, that dopamine hit is everything. And also having mini goals and mini dopamine hits along that way. That's why I think sales progression is really important, because you build out that timeline of different milestones. And every time you hit a milestone, that's a mini win. So like, right, we really need to work hard on getting this valuation booked in. Right, we really need to chase that mortgage offer in. Searches have not been in. Right, we need to get onto the local authority to chase those in. Maybe we're waiting on, I don't know, the exchange. We need to chase that. And they're all little mini wins, ticks that you're doing on your tick box. And they can help you stay motivated on the way so that you're not always waiting for that end goal, which is the money.
Yeah, having the milestones built in place to drive the sales progression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Paul, I feel I can chat to you for hours, mate.
We've got some time tonight with a beer anyway.
Yeah, I said to you before, I can't stay up. The last networking event, we were out till like 1 a.m.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't think I can
I'm
do
past that now. I'm past that.
Yeah. Only flew back in yesterday from Colombia. So,
I know.
So I'll have a few definitely after, and I'm sure, there's no doubt we could continue this for a long time. This is the quality of content that we've discussed today has been very high level. So I've enjoyed it.
Wicked. Yeah, it's been a good podcast.
And I think anybody listening would have learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot, which means a lot of other people will learn more. So yeah, great content. And thanks for coming up.
That's all right.
And look forward to doing some more bits with you, mate.
Wicked. Cheers.
All right, mate. All the best.